Guys, thanks for joining us today. So today you've got myself, Lieutenant Coop. Our glorious local talent, Captain McFarland, is unable to join us today. He had some personal stuff to take care of, so he won't be here. However, I do have our wonderful Sergeant Skinner with us here today, and we're going to do a Meet Your Supervisor. So Sergeant Skinner has been with us for a little bit now, and he just recently won our Supervisor of the Month. So again, congratulations on that. We did announce that, I believe, a couple of podcasts ago to everybody. But we decided we wanted to do another Meet Your Supervisor. You guys seem to like those ones, so we wanted to bring him in and put a face to the name. I know a lot of you guys who work some of our grocery stores have already met him, but at the same time, we want to make sure everybody has the ability to see him. So thank you for joining me. I know I kind of called you last minute, and I was like, hey, so here's what you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us. And so let's kind of get into it a little bit. How long have you worked for Titan?
Going on a little over 2 years now.
2 years. Nice. And you started just like kind of like the rest of us. You started as an on-site officer and kind of worked your way up. You went to our ATMs, right?
Yeah.
And then from there you went over to Supervisor, which is where your current role is now.
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever on patrol?
No.
Not really?
Overnight wasn't for me.
Can't blame me on that one. Overnight's always tough. All right, so when it comes to being a supervisor for Titan, does that kind of were you drawn to it, or was it something that we kind of do like they do to the rest of us, where we kind of just force you into it, for lack of a better way of saying it?
It's kind of a weird one.
A weird one?
We had some interesting stuff happening on one of our sites for a while.
Okay.
And then our supervisors left, and then you kind of just threw it at someone, realized I was doing everything, and said, actually, he gets it. And I didn't really get a say. And then I eventually left there, went to ATMs, got voluntold to be supervisor for that, and then I voluntarily took this role.
Yeah, and that's funny enough. When we're talking about supervisor for Titan, that's really how it kind of works. Is you get put into a position. Same thing happened to me. Very similar. I was on patrol long time ago in Titan history, and a supervisor position opened up at the time. Nobody else on the patrol wanted to do it, and they were like, "It's not worth it. It's a bunch of extra work for nothing." And I was like, "Well, I'll screw it. I'll try." And they were like, "Here you go. Here's all this extra stuff," and kind of just went from there and progressed into being sergeant and then FTO sergeant, and then where I sit now. So it's kind of funny that I was voluntold, because that's really kind of how it comes down to is you get a few extra tasks that aren't something that you would normally handle or deal with, and then next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, you've handled those 4 tasks that we wouldn't normally ask you to do extremely well. So here's some stripes. You're a corporal now." And it's like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. I didn't ask for that. I didn't try. So 2 years. How long did it take you to get on the ATM? How long were you actually at an on-site?
I started out doing grocery stuff. You guys put me out on the Paseo when I first started.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't miss it.
That was a fun store. They had some good characters that came in there.
Oh, yeah. Lovely characters. I went from there. Then you guys put me on Union Station over at the Auschwitz exhibit when we had that.
I remember that.
And then you guys put me in charge of that because that turned into something way bigger. And
it did. I remember when we started that. It was like, I think we were only projecting like 2 officers, and it went from 2 to 6 or something. And we were like, okay, this is a whole lot more work than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah. That was a fun time. And then once that was done, you guys put me up at Union Station, and then eventually I took over there for a bit, and then you guys found some other people and put me on ATMs.
Did you do you miss anything like that? Any of the on-sites, or are you pretty happy with where you are right now?
I'm pretty happy with where I am right now. I'd like to keep moving up, to be honest.
Good. He's not just saying that for the podcast and because I'm sitting here. I just want you guys to know that. There's no pressure. Say it otherwise. No. Hey, Charles, LJ, thanks for joining us. Well, that's good, man. So because your entire role, this was something when I came back to being a field lieutenant, I was lieutenant over the same site that you're doing sergeant for. The entire purpose behind your role is getting someone out, getting a supervisor out in the field to see the officers and check in with them and the clients at the store level and stuff, and moving around a whole lot and kind of doing more of that than the scheduling piece, because most of the scheduling is pretty well. I'd say it's a little easier personally than the field stuff. So getting that supervisor presence out to the officers, and how do you think that that's working? Do you think that that's positive role for our officers out there?
I think it's going pretty good. I've heard a few people say that it intimidates them, but it's just checking up, making sure you guys are okay, and making sure that you're doing your job.
Let me ask you this: as someone who has worked on sites like like everybody who's hopefully watching, do you, if you were an on-site still, would you like to see your supervisor, like, as much as you guys come out? Would that be something that you would look forward to, knowing that every so often they're going to stop by and say hi and make sure there's no comments, questions, or complaints or anything like that?
It's pretty nice. I'd say I liked it. It was really nice when I had someone that I could constantly go to about any of my problems when I was at Union Station.
I say and that's the one thing with being like at Union Station, or when you're when you work ATMs, is you've got that constant contact with the supervisor, because you got that person that's an arm's reach away, and you'd be like, hey, I've got a question on this, or how would I go forward on that? So having that, and you think that's a good positive role for the officers out there?
I think it's pretty good. I guess it depends on what kind of officer you want to be, though.
That's true. That's true. I always tell people, had officers say they can always tell the type of officer by the way they respond to certain supervisor names. And so they're like, oh, well, I know Lieutenant Coop. And they're like, oh, God, Lieutenant Coop. And they're like, okay, well, you don't like to do any extra. Or, there's some, and they're like, oh, that Lieutenant Coop, he's kind of cool. And there is nobody who says that. That's fine. I know none of you like me. They're like, oh, that guy's a good officer. They put in the extra work and stuff. So I think it's funny the way you say that, is because I think it's exactly it. Depending on how they react to the supervisor, it really kind of depends on. It shows the kind of officer they want to be, and I think that goes for any site we have. I don't think it's just our industry. I think that works at any industry. If you like your managers, I think it makes the work life, personal and work and professional, a whole lot easier, especially what we do. Okay, so when you're going out and seeing these officers and you're visiting them in the field and you're talking to them, what are some of the things that you're looking for in an officer? Because obviously you just stated you're not looking to do this for the rest of your life. You want to be promoted. You want to go up. So when you're looking for officers and you're looking for a replacement for yourself, just like we all were for lieutenants and stuff like that, what are you looking for when you check in with these officers? What are some of the key things that you see? Not just, and I don't mean just showing up on time, because that's the base level stuff. That's the very base core of what we do, is being able to show up on time and stuff like that. What are the things that stand out to you as a supervisor, that when you walk in, you see the officer, you're like, that right there, that's gold?
Big one is appearance for me.
Appearance?
If you look like you're squared away, you look like you're actually doing good, and you don't look like you just woke out of bed 20 minutes ago and you're still trying to come in and you don't even have a shirt buttoned up.
Appearance has always been a big thing for me. I've always hounded appearance, and then my big thing was I was always known as the rule guy. I was always, when it came to like the handbook, I always knew the handbook the best, so I always tagged into the rules. And but I think appearance is probably the number one, because it's the biggest thing that we got going for us. The first thing that people see when they walk through the door is what we look like. And so appearance is a number one thing. If your boots, I'm not saying that your boots have to be shined 100%, but they gotta look clean. Clean pants, clean uniform shirt. It doesn't have to be pressed, but as long as it doesn't look wrinkled like it just came out of the dryer, stuff like that. I agree. I think that's a good thing to look forward to. When you walk in, that's a base thing that I think it would be a good expectation to have is a good appearance. So what are some things that you could recommend to officers that are out there that might see this and think, well, how can I impress my supervisors? What are some things that would stand out to you in the appearance factor?
Definitely just try and stay attentive, because when they come in there, even if you're on your phone, if they can normally tell if you're still being attentive on it.
Right.
Because I can't say anything. I'd be a hypocrite otherwise. I've been on my phone.
I mean, there's a difference between checking your phone and playing on your phone, and it's a fine line to walk, especially when a client's got cameras on you or they're walking through the door. And that's something that I've struggled with, because I can't. I've got two phones, and they're sitting right here in front of us, and I can't sit here and say, "Oh, I'm never on my phone." That's a lie.
Yeah.
Everyone's on their phone at some point during the day, but I think that there's a difference between being on your phone and checking something, and that's one of the reasons I got my smartwatch. It's because I can just, oh, okay, not important, and I can move on. I can check it real quick. It makes that, I get that text message or that email that comes through. I can just do this real quick, double check it, and be like, nope, I can wait. That can wait for 20, 30 minutes, or that can wait an hour, or that can wait till later, and I can move on and not have to worry about it. But there's a difference between checking your phone and playing on your phone, and I think that's a fine line that most people and clients don't really understand. From when they walk in the door, from upper management coming in and walking in the door and looking over, and there's a guard on his phone. Like, oh my God, he's on his phone. What do we do? And it's like, well, is he playing on it or is he checking the time, checking an email? Am I talking to him? It's kind of a fine line to walk around and to be able to explain to officers and clients and even each other, making sure that everybody's on the same page on that. All right. What about anything else that you could recommend you might look forward to or might help them out in the field?
Don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're here to make you successful. We don't know there's problems unless you bring it to us.
There you go. That's something I've preached that every week in Neo is if you don't tell us that we don't know, we're not psychic. My favorite line I use in Neo when it comes to that is I'll be standing. I don't know if I said this in your class, but I tell everybody, I said, I'm not psychic. If you don't tell me that there's a problem I don't know, if I was psychic, I wouldn't have a Ford Focus 3-cylinder sitting in a parking lot, right? It'd be a lot nicer vehicle, but it's a 3-cylinder, so it's economic, it's fuel efficient. Why? Because I can't see the future coming, and I want to be able to pay for my gas. I don't know if it's going to hit $6 a gallon, and at that car, I'm okay with it. Not really. I couldn't do it. I'd be upset. I'd be walking everywhere. $6 a gallon, like down in California, $5.98 or $6.25. I'd be walking. Get myself an e-bike or something. You know what I mean? So, Gary, Brian, thanks for joining us, guys. If you guys got any questions for Sergeant Skinner, throw them in chat. Let us know. I'll be happy to read them and see if we can stump him with something. As he stares at me with malcontent. I feel kind of bad for him. I did call him, so I kind of knew probably an hour and a half ago, that I wasn't going to have anybody for the podcast, and we'd been debating doing another Meet Your Supervisor and who to do it with and stuff like that, and Lieutenant Ortiz actually kind of threw you under the bus on that. She goes, why don't you have Skinner in? And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, do another Meet Your Supervisor. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to do that. And so that's when I called a little bit later. I was like, hey, what are you doing? Brian says, so any advice for new officers? That's a good one, Brian. Good question.
Advice? Personally, don't do the rental program.
Don't do the rental program?
I'm not a big fan of it.
Okay.
I think having your own stuff is fantastic.
And you're talking
you're
talking the full gear, right? Duty belt and all of that stuff. Okay.
Knowing what you actually have on you, that's big. It also just brings some kind of comfort to me knowing that it's mine. I don't have to worry about anything else. Have your own stuff, and for other advice, just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask even just other guys if you're coming in, you don't know what you're doing. They'll probably be willing to help because sometimes the post orders are confusing on some of our places.
I will say that there are times that you can read some of the post orders, the SOP books that we have at the sites, or that you can get online through our applications and everything. Some of them can be a little daunting. If you were to go to a site like Union and they've got one massive SOP binder for just the basic stuff. And that's not counting any of the special events or anything else where it comes into the special, the other things that we do that we keep an eye on out there. There's a book for everything at that particular location. And if you're not expecting it or you don't read it, catch it completely off guard and you don't understand it, asking questions is the best thing you can do. That's good. With the rental, I agree with you. But that's at the same time, it was a little different for me in my time versus when you guys came in. When I started, we didn't have a rental. It didn't exist. You had to pay for everything up front. Guns, holsters, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I think when I started, I spent almost $2,000 just to start the gig. And it was a difference, too, is things have gone, price-wise for our industry, have gone down, too. Back when I started, you could only buy certain gear, and it was a certain price. Nowadays, they've got they had nylon gear back when I started, but it was like total just bad. Just didn't hold together. It was just it tore apart within 6 months. You'd have to go buy it again, and so you're looking. So I bought pretty good gear, and I spent about $2,000 or so, not counting the firearm that I already had. Thank goodness. Oof. And that was for a full vest, the whole 9 yards to get set up. And my fiance was not happy when I came home that day. I was like, hey, so I'm not gonna have a check for like 3 weeks because at the time we did payroll deduct. But it was like they did it in 4 payments. And so I think mine came out, it was like almost $400 a payment. It was something ridiculous. And so, I mean, if you're coming in new and you don't have gear, the rental program can be a good thing. But I think what I would pull from that is if you get on the rental program because you don't have your own stuff, if you're going to do this for a lifetime, and this is something you see yourself doing, whether it be law enforcement or security, for the long haul, I agree. I think I would recommend buying my own gear, because at that point I can buy gear I know is going to last me a lifetime. Yeah. Like when I finally, I think it was 3 years after I got my first belt, I was like, I'm going to buy something that is meant for the long term, and I went out and bought a leather belt, and I've had that thing ever since, and it's been probably the best duty belt I've ever bought, and I loved it. Let's see. LJ says, what do you think TPC has over other private protection agencies in the metro area? What do you think makes us better and or different?
Well,
that's another good question.
I've never actually worked for any of the other ones, but I've definitely seen their officers.
Okay.
I think we look nicer, for one. I think our
uniforms stand
out a bit better. There were a few things that I think other ones did better. I remember SK, I think, had really nice looking patrol cars.
I will say there are some companies out there that have some really nice looking patrol cars, but at the same time, it makes me wonder, if you're spending all that money on a patrol car, where are you not spending it, or are you just spending that everywhere?
That's fair. But I believe we do training. I don't think any other company does that.
Nope, we do. Our training is in this metro area, at least as far as I know, and from the stories I've heard from other officers. Not going to name any client, any other security companies, but as far as I know, we do the most training with our officers, whether it be in the classroom, at the range, or with our FAT simulator. We do the most, and I think that I've always prided us on. We've always done that. I think when I got hired, it was 3.5 days of training, and now we're up to 5, which is, to me, it's just killer. Getting all that training in. It's a lot to take in, but at the same time, there's just nothing. I don't think you can beat that level of training.
It was very reassuring to have that, because I was
nervous. This was your first security company? Mine too.
I was
mind you, mine was a long time ago.
I was pretty nervous, and I was also kind of timid, in all honesty, when I first started.
What made you want to do security? If this was your first company, what piqued your interest about it?
It's kind of just been on my radar for a while, but I never really thought I'd be able to join it, because I'm a small guy, okay?
Folks, he's like 4'9". No, he's really not, but he's like 110 pounds with the vest on. Like, it's crazy. No, I mean, I would say you're probably on a little of the smaller side, but I wouldn't put you at one of the smallest officers we have. I mean, you're not McFarlane here. 6'4", 225. We're not. I'm not like that either. You're probably on the small end like I am, but
I'm not gonna lie. For a while, I thought that the hierarchy was just height.
It's funny when you look at lieutenants, it almost looks like that, because you got the lieutenants and they legit go from me being the shortest, and now it's not me. Now it's me and Brown, because we're the same height. We had a debate about that on a podcast. Can you believe that? It came up who was taller, me or Brown. Everybody thought Brown was. I'm a little hurt. But we kind of found out that we were the same height. We went and stood back to back the same day that it came up. We were like, nope, I'm figuring this out. But it did, because it started with me, the shortest. Then there was Ortiz, Roses, and everybody was, I could believe that. All right. What do you think What do you think businesses benefit from protection? Ooh. Look at the big brain on Mr. Potter, asking the good questions. So what do you think businesses benefit from protection?
That really depends on what kind of protection you're getting from us.
Okay. And that, you mean versus on-site versus patrol?
Or just having cameras.
Just having cameras? Okay.
It really depends, and a lot of the times that is a good question, because you'll never really know the benefits, because the whole thing is, if nothing's happening, then it's working as intended. And
that's something we've not argued, but we've had that conversation with officers and clients and stuff. And you'll see the reports usually when we come in. And I would think for most security companies, they come in, they start protecting, and based on the level of protection that they get, whether it be cameras, patrol, on-site, whatever it is, you start seeing reports of this activity or that activity. And then the longer that protection goes on, you see less and less and less. And then you're like, oh, well, what am I paying you for? You're not doing anything. And it's because they're that presence is scaring off that riffraff, and keeping that and moving it somewhere else. Because that's a lot of times what they're looking for, is they're looking for the easy mark. So they walk in and they see Sergeant Skinner standing there, and they're like, that guy looks pretty good. I think I'm going to move somewhere else. And that's where looking professional with a uniform, looking clean and neat and stuff, that's where that kind of ties in too. So I think you're right. I think it depends on the client and what they're looking for and then the type of service that they get. That's good. Let's see. Gary says he's been doing security for over 20 years and he's never gotten the training anywhere else that he received at Titan. And I stand by that, and I probably will. I'm a little biased because, like you, this is my first security job. And I came into this with no security knowledge. I bounced for a buddy for like 6 weeks. It was something small. And the reason is I think on my 6th week, I had a couple of guys that were like 6'8", 6'7", walk up, and I was like, oh, this is going to stink. This is going to be a night. And I was like, I think I'm done here. They just threw me out of a window. I think I'm okay. And kind of moved on from there. But I'm a little biased on the training because this is the only, like I said, only company I've been through. And I think our training is the absolute best. I really do, hands down. Would you concur? You don't have to. You can argue with me if you like.
I mean, it was pretty good.
Just pretty good?
Yeah.
I'll tell Todd you said it was pretty good.
Okay. You do that. I'll tell it to him as well. One of the things, though, that I know a lot of people that I've spoken to before was saying that they'd like to do recurring stuff, keep it fresh.
You had to say that right as I was taking a drink. Thank you. No, and that a lot of our training, so not a lot, but some of our training, like the arm side, is recurring. I'd like for it to be recurring as well. You know, get a little bit more in there. I will say that if there's ever a point where any of our officers are feeling like they want to go back through or something like that, we do offer that. It's not something that we do on a regular basis. It's not, like every 9 months you got to come back through training or anything like that. But we do offer the fact that if you're standing there and you're like, you know what, I feel like I got a good grasp on it, but I'd like to go back through again. I know it is something that we do offer. So, for the officers that feel that they want to go back through, they can always reach back out. And if we've got the ability to get them into class, we'll get them back into class and put you back through defensive tactics, handcuffing, and all that stuff, just kind of get a refresher in. So that's good to mention because I don't think many people know that that's something that they can do. Like I said, it's not something you can do every 6 months or something like that. But if you wanted a refresher, I wouldn't see any problem with it. That's good. It makes me feel any better. You think Brown is definitely the shorter lieutenant. Well, I appreciate that. It's not true. We're the same height, but I definitely appreciate saying that he is shorter than me. So thank you so much. But other than that, I don't really have anything else for you, man. You kind of answered everything I got. If you guys in chat have any more questions you'd like to ask him, throw it in chat and we'll take a look at it and we'll see if we can stump him. He's had some pretty good answers as of so far, so I'm pretty proud of him on that fact. We trained him well. But other than that, did you have a good weekend?
It was pretty good.
Yeah, you worked on Sunday, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right, Sunday, any fun?
It was okay at work.
Yeah. So, Friday was St. Patty's Day. Did you do anything special, anything fun on St. Patty's Day? I completely didn't even know it was St. Patrick's Day until Captain told me.
I kind of forgot.
No, you do.
St. Patty's Day, and someone reminded me that it was St. Patty's Day, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, we were on the podcast on Friday, and he goes, "Oh, it's St. Patrick's Day." Just before we start, and I went, "It's what?" He goes, "It's St. Patrick's Day," and I was like, "It's St. Patrick's Day today?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "You did not know?" He goes, "You didn't know?" I was like, "No, I totally forgot that was a thing." I tend not to. I try not to drink a whole lot anymore, so I don't really pay attention to those holidays. And like college, oh, I was all over that holiday. Give me a reason to not go to class and drink all day. Let's do it.
I gave myself really bad alcohol poisoning once, and I don't drink much ever since.
That'll do it. Let's see. Gary asks, "How was the Team Titan Day?" You didn't go to that, did you?
No, I had family stuff that I already had pre-planned for that.
Okay. It wasn't bad, Gary. I was there. I did the simulation training. I ran it and instructed on it, and we had some people come in and they did a really good job. Then we did a little bit of the game side of it, where we've got the zombies and the shoot house stuff, where they've got the targets and stuff, and it was fun. We had some of the kids. I don't know if I should openly admit this, but we had some of the kids doing some of like the clay pigeon shooting and stuff, and got to teach them a little bit about. Some of the older kids got to learn a little bit more about gun safety and gun handling and stuff like that. So I thought it was fun. Got some interesting scenarios and some interesting responses from people on some of the funner ones. So it was definitely had a couple of shooting competitions between like the iron trees.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
We did that during the Christmas thing last year.
Yep. And got a couple of those out and had some good competitions with those. So it was I thought it was pretty fun. I don't know. I enjoyed myself. Brian said it was fun. He got some good. I think he got some good photos. I haven't seen any of them yet, so I'm waiting to see when those come out. Brian, you got to let me know when those come out because some of them were pretty good. But other than that, I think it was a rousing success. But other than that, you have anything else you want to put out there for him? Anything you want to say?
Not really off the top of my head.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Anybody else got any questions for him or anything you want to say? Now's the chance because now we don't. I won't tell him who you are. We'll leave it completely anonymous if you want to give him a hard time. But other than that, I don't have anything else, guys. Going to keep it pretty fairly short. As for weather, as of right now, for the rest of the week, it is going to be high 50s, give or take. Tomorrow is going to be the colder one. We are expecting some rain. At least that's what the weather guys say. And everybody here should know how I feel about weathermen at this point. The only job you can get wrong every day and still be employed the next day. And Wednesday, it looks like they're calling for storms as well. So still 71 on Wednesday. So a little warmer, but dress for the weather, guys. Stay hydrated. Other than that, I think that's all we got. So we appreciate your time, guys. Sergeant Skinner, thank you so much for joining us. And congratulations again on Supervisor of the Month. So round of applause for him there. Other than that, guys, I'm going to let you guys get back to it. We appreciate your time so much. If you guys have any videos you want us to react to or review and for me and Kat McFarland, be sure to send those to me and let me know, and I will get those taken a look at. So other than that, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, have fun, and we will see you guys the next time. Thanks, guys.